Thank you. Will the secretary please call roll?
Assemblywoman Anderson,
Present.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson,
Here.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod,
Here.
Assemblywoman Considine,
Present.
Assemblyman Hafen,
Here.
Assemblywoman Kasama,
Here.
Assemblyman Miller, Assemblyman O'Neill,
Here.
Assemblyman Ortlicker,
Here.
Assemblyman Roberts,
Here.
Assemblyman Yeager,
Here.
Chair Cohen.
And I am present. Thank you. There are 11 of us present. That means we have a quorum. I'd like to welcome everyone watching or listening over the internet to this virtual meeting. Our meetings for the time being will be held on Tuesdays and Thursdays in this format only, regularly scheduled for 4 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Some housekeeping before we begin. Members and presenters, please mute any electronic devices. Courtesy and respect in our interactions during the meetings is required. Additionally, courtesy and respect when working with staff before or during the meetings is required as well. Committee members will be using laptops and possibly other screens and devices to participate in the meeting virtually, also to view exhibits, that type of thing. Due to this, you may see us looking away from the screen with the camera. Please don't take this as a sign of disrespect or inattention. We're just trying to navigate in this new virtual world. As a reminder, and as stated on our agenda, we will have public comment, which will occur at the end of the meeting and may be limited in duration. Details on how to participate during public comment are available on Nellis, which you can get to on the legislature's website. People who wish to testify or attend the meeting virtually must pre-register online on the Nellis page, and registration opens when an agenda is posted to the Nevada Legislature's website. Upon successful registration, registrants will receive a telephone number, meeting ID, and instructions for joining the meeting. Also, as a reminder, per rule number 54 of the Assembly Standing Rules, I'm going to go over support, opposition, and neutral testimony. Support of a bill means that you support the bill as written or along with proposed amendments that have been approved by the bill's sponsor. Opposition to a bill means that you're not supporting the measure as written or not supporting the measure as revised by an amendment that was also approved by the sponsor. And because of that, you can love a bill and support it. But if you have any little tweaks you want, anything like that, that still hasn't been worked out between you and the sponsor, that's opposition. But feel free during your testimony to let us know that you love the bill and just need a couple tweaks. Neutral position on a bill is when you offer insight on the measure, but you're expressing no position on it. Please note also that everyone on the video is a presenter, a member of the assembly or staff. This may change in the future, but for the sake of fairness, all support, opposition, and neutral testimony will be taken via the phone. So we will now move on to our presentation on Assembly Bill 13. Assembly Bill 13 revises requirements related to certain financial reporting by the state controller. And with us is our state controller, Catherine Byrne, and Chief Deputy Controller, Lori Hoover. So I'll ask the controller and the chief deputy to please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair Assemblywoman Cohen and members of the Assembly Committee on Revenue for allowing me to speak today about this Nevada State Controller's Office. My name is Catherine Byrne and I'm your Nevada State Controller. NRS Title 18, Chapter 227 defines the duties and responsibilities of the State Controller. NRS Title 31, Chapter 353C covers the collection of debts owed to the state. The Controller's Office has 41 authorized full-time positions divided into 4 sections consisting of financial reporting, operations, debt collections, and information technology. In addition, management is comprised of the state controller, the chief deputy controller, and one executive assistant. The financial reporting section is comprised of 10 full-time positions headed by one lead CAFR accountant. The financial reporting activity is provided to a broad audience. Municipal bondholders and underwriters, the governor and legislatures, and the public are provided with a comprehensive annual financial statement, which is prepared using accounting principles generally accepted in the United States and is required by the state accounting law. The state must follow these accounting standards and standards applicable to state and local governments issued by the Government Accounting Standards Board. States are required to produce their comprehensive annual financial statements in conformity with these standards to sell municipal bonds and attain federal funds, among other things. The CAFR is required to be included in the single audit. A single audit is an audit of the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. Also, the comprehensive financial statement information is used for accumulating comparable historical data year over year and jurisdiction to jurisdiction. The CAFR is essential to the marketing and selling of state bonds as well as obtaining federal grant monies. Another essential function of the financial reporting section is assisting the state agencies with providing reporting information, administer their budgets, and conducting financial activities associated with their legislatively directed missions. We review certain accounting activity and agencies to ensure that their financial transactions are being recorded in accordance with the state accounting law. The state controller prepares the popular annual financial statement. It's also called a PAFR. The report is not audited. The PAFR is a report with financial data that is extracted from the CAFR, and it's communicated in plain language, and it's designed to give the reader an overview of the state's finances. The report is specifically designed to be readily accessible and easily understandable to the general public and other interested parties that are without a background in public finance. The financial reporting section is also responsible for developing the state's accounting policies and procedures, assisting agencies with accounting questions and issues, the approval of journal vouchers and certain transactions posted in Advantage. We review and enter work programs from the budget division. The Controller's Office prepares the quarterly financial statement of the Permanent School Fund, prepares the quarterly Census Bureau reports, and prepares tables and schedules are included in bond official statements. The operating section of the Controller's Office, also called Agency Services, is comprised of 14 full-time positions headed by one chief accountant. The operations sections include the Vendor Services Desk, which registers and maintains all vendors paid through the state financial statements. They are applying foreign vendor backup withholding, and they're responsible to IRS information return notices and IRS levies. System administration and financial help desk, which includes maintaining the state's financial system and assisting agencies with Advantage testing and troubleshooting. Security for Advantage and third-party check writing software, including user setup and removal. Federal grant reporting, which includes compiling and certifying the state's single audit report. We train agencies in grant reporting for the scheduled expenditures of federal awards. We assist agencies and outside auditors to resolve single audit report audit findings. And we prepare the Cash Management Improvement Act's annual report. Agency Services also processes wires, does check printing, cancels checks and reissue, processes agency work programs and related file uploads and journal vouchers. They process deposits and wage garnishments. They set up chart of accounts, including budget accounts and categories for federal job numbers. Other responsibilities of the agency services include completing the state's monthly bank reconciliation and processing and issuing IRS Form 1099 miscellaneous that is applicable for applicable payments outside of the vendor or inside of the Advantage system. Excuse me. The third section I want to talk about is the debt collection section. Debt collection section is comprised of 4 full-time positions headed by 1 chief accountant. The debt collection section is responsible for collecting debts owed to the state of Nevada and is regulated by Chapter 353C of the Nevada Revised Statutes and Nevada Administrative Code. The debt collection's responsibilities include collecting and managing past due state receivables using tools such as debt offset and private collection agencies. They provide information, training, and technical assistance to state agencies on collection topics and accounts receivable processes. They process and reconcile payments received from debtors. They provide reconciling reports to state agencies. They help with submitting uncollectible accounts receivables for the Board of Examiners approval for write-off. And they compile quarterly and annual year-end accounts receivable reports for the state of Nevada, which is included in the annual comprehensive financial report. Our last section is information technology section. It is comprised of 10 full-time positions headed by 1 IT manager too. The section's responsibilities include systems and networking, which is responsible for maintenance and support of IT network and server hardware and the IT support of controller's office users. They are responsible for the maintenance and support of the controller's office databases and the Advantage financial system. They're responsible for any program changes, maintenance, and support of the controller's office custom-built applications, websites, and the Advantage financial system. They're responsible for the security and the management of the controller's security policies and IT security of the controller's office staff. The section also maintains the agency's network servers, website, applications, antivirus, Office 365, and users' profiles. This concludes my presentation of the State Controller's Office. And at this time, I'd like to ask if anybody has any questions for us.
Thank you, Controller. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. If anyone does have any questions, please let me know. In the meantime, I do have a couple of questions. Thank you for the information about what your office does and about the CAFR. Can you, and I really appreciate knowing that the CAFR is done, supposed to be done in a way so that the average person who doesn't have an accounting background can understand. Can you tell me, I don't know if you track this, but how much are people in Nevada looking into the CAFR and reading it yearly? And then if so, do you know why most people who are interested in it are looking at it?
I don't know the actual number or any specifics about the demographics. But my usual questions come from the residents that are really involved in the state's, the government and how the government runs in the state. They typically will get a CAFR every year, and they may have questions on it. We will have questions from outside of the state organizations that, again, they collect this information year over year, so it's comparable data from state to state. And in the state, it's typically just used by other auditors. It's included in the single audit. But other than that, as far as the general population, it's very seldom do I get them have questions or inquire about a CAFR. they're more, the report that is more designed for general population is the popular annual financial report. But the CAFR is kind of in a language that is really for those that are experts in, government finance and financial accounting.
Thank you, Controller. And I'm sorry, I was a bit remiss. I should have also reminded you to make sure, for the sake of our secretaries, make sure and state your name before speaking. Okay, and then I do have another question. Can you just go into, does the current law preclude you from putting the information into the CAFR that's in the bill, in the new sections?
Thank you. This is Catherine Burns, State Controller. The bill is just covering verbiage, and the verbiage that we have presented has also been the legislature was it fiscal? That they've changed the wording on it than I had originally had. So we're just trying to clean up the language, and it's just very general, so it doesn't get very specific when we name the reports. Because they could change and standards change. Do you want to add to that? My deputy will add to that.
Hi, this is Lori Hoover, Chief Deputy of the Controller's Office. I don't remember quite when that statute came about, but the wording that was in there is based on old names of reports that were in the CAFR or tables or statements. And so the goal, we had originally started with changing it to what the CAFR state now, but with talking with the LCB analysts, they were helpful in saying maybe we should just make it very general so that if it changes again, we don't have to come back to that. So it's really only trying to take it up maybe a little bit higher and explain in a general way what's going into the CAFR so that it's not looked at as outdated.
Yeah, this is Catherine Byrne again, State Controller. Also, again, that statute is old and outdated. So the statements had changed dramatically since that statute was written. So.
Thank you for that. And just for the sake of clarification, I think we'd more properly say that it was actually LCB legal and not fiscal.
Thank you.
Provided that suggested verbiage.
I apologize.
No problem. Okay, thank you. And then I do have a question from Vice Chair Benitez Thompson.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Controller, for your overview and for the work that you guys do on this. So the existing CAFR report as it is just over 200 pages. So I was just wondering, it sounds like this language change is just changing language to reflect what's in the report right now. But as we look at that report and the information that's in there, would there be anything about that report that would change?
The report is prepared in accordance with the government accounting standards. So they give us a lot of the verbiage. And it's subjective too. So, but we leave, we have guidance on the verbiage, but generally we want what's in there that's relevant. But much of it is required by the standards. But we just want in there what's relevant. We don't address every single standard because some of it isn't relevant. So typically the format isn't designed by the state government itself.
Thanks. A follow-up, Madam Chair. So there's not a change to the content as we see it or what's included in there. If there's we're not looking to, this won't affect like any of the sections that are in there. It won't necessarily change the content of the report.
That's correct. That's correct. It would just, it doesn't really change the content other than updating for whatever information we have that year. Again, it's about relevance, what's relevant today.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Can I have a question from Assemblyman O'Neill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. Madam Controller, I'll try to make this quick for you. What's our percentage of recovery on debts? 25,000 over and the 25,000 less. And I want to make sure, are the state agencies turning over their debts to you like they're supposed to, if I understand correctly?
This is Catherine Burns, State Controller. Thank you for that question. We do struggle having the agencies follow that NRS. It is a constant challenge to get the receivables on time for us to actually have an effective collection process for those. And then also what we will have is we have some agreements with some of the larger agencies that they will do their own collections. For example, DETR and the Department of Taxation, they'll have who else has an MOU? DMV also does their own collections. So we'll set up agreements with the larger agencies because they do the collection of their debts. And then what they will turn over to us is what they feel needs to go to the Board of Examiners for consideration of write-off.
Now,
Excuse me, my deputy might want to add.
how successful are you in the debts that are turned over?
So the ones that are old, you get very, very little success rate on the old ones. And old, I mean over 1 year, over 360. Your odds of collecting those monies are really remote after maybe 6 months or so.
How about
very small.
Well, what I'm curious about is the agencies then that do turn over their debt, their current stuff, how successful are we in collecting those?
We have that schedule presented earlier. We don't have it with us right now at this time, but did we have a rate of what we collect? It's kind of also, we have collections for Fund 101, and then we have collections for some other funds, and typically it's slightly different what, the percentage that gets collected for different types of receivables. Do you want to add?
This is Lori Hoover, Chief Deputy. What I was going to say is, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of that information in front of us. We can get you those percentages if later and send them through to fiscal. But we're right. We also limited our collection efforts through the major part of the pandemic simply because we had so many Nevadans out of work.
Yeah.
So what we have started up with upon Controller Burns' request is that we start looking at large dollar value accounts that are coming in. So anything we were doing over $25,000 that are coming in now, we're dropping it down to $10,000, and we're trying to go after those. It depends on what type of a stick, if you want to say, that we have with them. If we're able to do some sort of a garnishment or require them to pay us, it's a lot better. If we don't have any reason to get them to pay, then sometimes it's harder.
I would appreciate the numbers. I think I'm beginning to get known around the legislature as the carrot and stick man. But and also, please let me know if there's anything we can do to assist in improving your ability to collect on those debts. So thank you for your time, and thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to ask.
You're welcome. And please send the information through staff, and we'll make sure that the whole committee gets it.
I will. Yes, I'd like to give you as much, Captain Burns, State Controller. Yeah, we would like to give you as much data as you need that we have, or we can give you, but the volume of it's very large. So we try to get more specific as we can, so it doesn't get so convoluted and confusing. So it's just such a wide swath for the state of receivables. There's just, you can't apply one process or one story to any, across the board, other than maybe some processes like collection agencies and write-off and some oversight ones. But again, I like to focus on more current debt, and because that's when we're going to have, we'll have a better return on our investment if we focus on stuff that's more current and stuff that is larger, large amounts. And we need agencies to assist us with that because we will need it. We need to know the debt quickly. And yes, you as legislators could help when it comes to trying to collect some of this business debt out of business and industry. And then the last thing I'd like to add was Lori had touched on a little bit that, yes, when we are during this pandemic and also at the last recession, we don't get as assertive and aggressive about collecting as we would normally do during better economic times. Asking people to pay a debt after we've laid them off. We can't pay them their unemployment, and then they're going to get a letter from me asking them for money. Same with businesses. We ask them. We've had them sacrifice so much, and then for me to come in later and ask them at that time, and ask them for money. I don't think that improves our relationship with the business and constituent, the communities and the relationships that we want to develop with these business and communities. So it kind of gets something, you got to apply a little bit of psychology to it. So, thank you.
Controller Byrne, have you ever used amnesty programs, or do you think when the economy picks up a little, you might use an amnesty program to get some of the previous debts paid and let people clear their records without fines and the possibility of loss of any licensing, anything like that?
Thank you for that question, Catherine Byrne, State Controller. We have not, to my recollection, we have not used any kind of amnesty. We have such a wide variety or a wide swath of what, the kind of revenue that people owe us, from Medicaid overpayments to a return check to, a fine that they just aren't going to pay. I mean, that's just how businesses are. I mean, they'll, especially with fines and penalties. I mean, it's hard. So it comes to establishing relationships, and we're going to get the money much easier that way. And then you have a better relationship with the public.
Okay, thank you for that, and for being cognizant of wanting to have good relationships with our businesses, and that they are going through a lot financially right now, as are many of our citizens. With that, I don't think I see any other questions. If anyone's out there, no hands. Okay, so with that, I think we'll go to support. BPS, if you can let us know if we've got anyone on the line for support, please.
Yes, Chair. To testify in support of Assembly Bill 13, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 700, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Brian Wachter, BryanWachter, on behalf of the Retail Association of Nevada. We'd just like to thank the Comptroller's Office for this bill. We do believe that it'll make for a more efficient, up-to-date, and current look at some of the budget concerns that we think should be influencing the legislative conversation. We know we appreciate the report when it's released, and so we look forward to the update, and we want to thank the Comptroller's Office and urge your support of this bill.
Thank you for your input. Anyone else in support BPS?
Call-in user 1, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes, and you begin now.
Hi, this is Kim Wallen, former state controller, and I am speaking in support of AB 13. This is something that I did as controller many times when the standards would change. We needed to go and change our statutes to comply with the standards. So that way we would have a CAFR that is in compliance, that the bond rating agencies would use, and it would be in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wallen. It's good to hear from you. BPS, anyone else in support, please?
Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you. Anyone in opposition?
Chair, we do not have any callers in the queue at this time for opposition.
Thank you. So with that, Controller Byrne, Chief Deputy Controller Hoover, would you like to make any closing statements?
Thank you, Assemblywoman Cohen. No, I think I was glad to add in our discussion about debt collection and how important the relationships are, and what economic times we're in, have an impact on collections and how we do collect. So that I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you both. And with that, I will close the hearing on AB 13 and we'll move on to public comment. As a reminder, public comment may be limited based on the number of participants. Do we have anyone on the line for public comment, BPS?
Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Okay, do we have any comments from the members before we adjourn? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to be adjourning this meeting, but first, our next Revenue Committee meeting is somewhat up in the air, so please keep an eye out for that. But with that, we will conclude our meeting for today, and we are adjourned.